shield.
Gabbard is resigning her post to attend to the health of her ailing husband. Kelly Loeffler, administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration, tells Hugh Hewitt on the Salem Radio Network it's an honor to serve President Trump.
There has never been a more important time for not just resolving so many national security issues, but economic security issues in this country. And President Trump is moving so quickly to do it on so many fronts. It's a great honor. It's very humbling every day to serve this great president, to serve our nation.
More on these stories from townhall.com.
If you want unlimited talk, text, and data on a super fast network, Big Wireless will sell it to you right now for as little as $70 a month. Or you can buy it from Pure Talk for half of that. I'm talking about unlimited talk, text, and data for just $34.99 a month. But wait, there's more. When you switch to Pure Talk, you'll be switching to an American wireless company that's committed to keeping 100% of its customer service in this country. I appreciate that. In fact, that's why I switched. I also appreciate the way they support our vets and our skilled workforce. Dial pound 250, say micro, and get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data for just $34.99 a month. That's pound 250 micro. Stop paying twice what you need to pay for the service you want and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
That evacuation order has disrupted thousands of lives in Southern California. And now, officials have lifted those orders for residents near a damaged chemical tank. Correspondent Julie Walker with the update.
The all clear for residents in and around Garden Grove in Southern California after the risk of a catastrophic explosion or leak from a chemical tank is over. A crack in the top allowing pressure to escape. Orange County Fire Authority Interim Chief T.J. McGovern.
After an extensive operation, we're happy to report that all evacuation orders have been lifted.
Residents forced to evacuate after the 7,000-gallon tank with methyl methacrylate used to make airplane parts overheated Thursday. Chris Myers with the EPA says they've been monitoring air quality.
All air monitoring instruments have been operating 24 hours a day, and there have been no exceedances detected.
I'm Julie Walker.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
This program is brought to you in part by Ability Tree Experts. Ability Tree Experts, Houston's leading tree care professionals. Call 281-441-4179.
Checo Pro Joe here. Join me this Saturday at 11 a.m. when Andrew from A&A Gem Pro Generators discusses whole home standby generators and the peace of mind they bring. That's this Saturday at 11, right here on AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas.
Does your company need to be compliant with U.S. Coast Guard 2022-0802? Do you require an independent third-party vendor for penetration testing? If you do, call Tactical Cyber Services at 713-229-0030 or go online to tacticalcyberservices.com. They can work with your Internet IT group or security vendor like Witt O'Brien to make sure your documentation is compliant. Call 713-229-0030 today.
Dan Patrick for my friend Louis Flory and Ability Tree Experts.
Spring is here and summer just around the corner, which means it's time to deep root fertilize your trees in addition to spraying for insects and disease. Let Ability Trees help maintain their value and repair all damage. Fed and pruned tree will be less susceptible to wind damage and uprooting. Caring for the beautiful and valuable trees on your property that you can't replace should be done by experts. And the experts I use, it's very clear. It's Ability Tree Experts and Louis Flory.
My friend for over 40 years.
Gosh, this guy is the pro when it comes to taking care of trees. You know, pruning is important for the health of your trees. And pruning limits resistance to spring storms and allows the sun and fresh air into the canopy. Trees can be in distress several months without showing any signs. So don't wait to protect your investment at 281-441-4179, 281-441-4179, or visit their website at abilitytrees.com. Right now, Ability Trees is giving a deep root feeding with every tree pruned. Ability Trees, Houston's leading tree care professional.
One, two, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Prepare yourself.
Okay.
For Craig.
Okay.
Preparing a mighty new spectacle here.
Articulate. Stimulating. Hit you right in the... there you go. Start becoming a team right now. This is the Craig Collins Show.
Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord, no.
Start talking. Talk fast.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now your host.
He's a good man.
Craig.
That's right. It is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. So much stuff to talk about. A whole lot of the things out there are related, and this is on a national scale, not just here locally, to the Senate race, to the not so surprising to me and you, not so surprising to people like Chris X, who does the show before this, or Chris Salcedo in the morning, essentially the people who actually live here, that Paxton beat the absolute crap out of Cornyn in the primary race. That's not surprising. It was surprising to people in other places in media. I heard Guy Benson and other people on this station saying how terrible and flawed Ken Paxton is as a candidate. Is he a great person? I'm not going to say yes to that. I think there might be some issues there that might make me feel that he's not the best human being. But is he an effective politician? Absolutely he is. Is he someone who's going to crush Tallarico? I think absolutely he will. I think the likelihood of a Ken Paxton Senate seat in the November election is through the roof. I think it's like 100%. And I don't care about the people that are saying right now that they think that Paxton is weak, that Tallarico can win. And here's the reason why. I'll go ahead and start with this, because now you're going to see a whole lot more of this. Now, the campaign can finally focus away from infighting between Paxton and Cornyn or anybody else within the Conservative Party, and it can focus on the insanity that is James Tallarico. This is about 1 minute and 40 seconds of some of the crazy stuff he says as a supercut. You could just run this. You don't even have to say anything good about the candidate that is running against him in Paxton. You can just play this audio on repeat, and I think there's no way this person can be elected to a statewide political position in a state like Texas.
Like Jesus have helped me reckon with my own whiteness, my own masculinity, my own certainty, my own ego. It's a never-ending process, and it's a painful process. I often think when reclaiming symbols, I think about the American flag. I think the Confederate flag is a symbol of treason and terrorism, but the American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us, and in many ways, like Jesus, like the cross, it's been co-opted and
it's not all that complicated to me.
And in some ways, its true meaning has been betrayed. President Obama earned the title Deporter-in-Chief from immigration rights activists and aggressively expanded drone airstrikes across the world. Jesus was a feminist. In a deeply patriarchal society, he invited women to participate in his movement and trusted them as his closest confidants. He also repeatedly used feminine language to describe God, including saying God is womb-like and describing God using the Hebrew feminine noun for wisdom.
You can't call yourself a Christian and destroy God's creation with greenhouse gases.
No need to sit and cry over, your whiteness or your masculinity.
Right.
Use it.
Yep.
Use it to do something.
Yeah.
Let's be productive. For the most part, the Republican caucus here in Texas is white, older men, straight, cisgendered men.
And
something
that's
that you
terrible
love.
Somehow.
It's not family or friends.
I love, I'm just saying this because it's on my mind, the trans children.
For me,
wait, hold on. We're not going to do it again. But that is just a bunch of insane stuff. And this is part of the Tallarico audio that exists. He says God is non-binary, as you've heard that clip before. There's so many more things just like this that make Tallarico such an utterly disqualifying candidate, especially in a place like Texas. But to be honest, in most places in this country, there are only a few cities, I used to live in one of them in Chicago, where someone this radically left can actually win a political race. But there are people that are saying that they think that Ken Paxton is weak enough because of some personal baggage and the fact that he was actually acquitted by the Texas Senate of any wrongdoing that he was accused of in a political space, that's enough for someone like Tallarico to actually win a race here in this state. It's utterly insane. And I very much pray and hope that Texas proves me right in this. And I think they will. You guys haven't disappointed me yet in the year that I've been here, the year that I moved here. I'm very excited about the things that I've seen happen and that I thought would happen, because it's all kind of played out. Now, by the way, Will Cain on Fox also had this to say about James Talrico, because, again, the focus is finally going to be on the person who actually is insane in the race. Here we go.
Who could forget this one? Talarico posting on social media back in 2020. White skin gives me and every white American immunity from the virus, but we spread it wherever we go. Through our words, our actions, and our systems. We don't have to be showing symptoms like a white hood or a Confederate flag to be contagious.
Yeah, whiteness is contagious and terrible. He's said being masculine is awful, that you should sit and cry in the corner if you're a dude who behaves at all like a dude. He's got a fake girlfriend that nobody's ever seen or knows. Like, he's a very easy candidate to run against. You know it. I know it. A whole bunch of people out there know it. So I think it will be very quickly apparent that he is way, way worse than Beto O'Rourke was when he came somewhat close, not really all that close, to winning a seat in the Senate here in this state as well. Other things out there, and yeah, I do want to cover the Senate race more, but I do think that right now it's really interesting to watch how Texas becomes a national story. And it's all focused on Trump, actually. So let me say this before I move on to the other audio. The thing I find so interesting about the never-Trumpers who are out there, especially the ones in conservative media who pretend that they actually like Trump occasionally and then obviously don't like Trump a little bit later, and any opportunity they get to try to get away from the man, they take it until it slaps them in the face, like all of the campaigning for Cornyn that did not go well for some of those voices on Fox News. The thing that's amazing to me is at a national level, the discussion is just about Trump still. It's not about Paxton. It's not about Talarico as much as it should be. It's about the influence Trump has in the primary and if that influence will actually extend to the vote in November. That's all people seem to want to talk about because every conversation, you know what's funny about that too? I find this to be kind of uniquely interesting, is every conversation trails back to Trump from a media that complains that they talk about him too much. And yet they find an avenue to go back to a President Trump topic, especially when it doesn't have to be that way. When you could talk about literally anything else, they're like, yeah, but how does Trump tie into this? And then how is he a terrible, awful person? Because that also, of course, is their agenda all the time. I want to play, I have some Trump audio to play, actually, but I want to play something else first that I thought was interesting. This came from Fox News. This was a sit-down interview with Jill Biden that's making the rounds, and it's making the rounds because of a question she was asked about the debate performance of her husband that probably ended his ability or the reality of taking his, presidential campaign seriously. Like the moment that occurred, it felt like to a lot of people it was over. And Dr. Biden, as I think I'm contractually required to say that she's a doctor, not of medicine, multiple times, said that she was frightened by her husband's performance on stage. Remember, all these people told us that he was mentally fit for office, that he was running circles around everybody else. And now, when I guess it's convenient, a couple years later, when the goalposts have been pushed down the field far enough, they're allowed to say out loud the thing we all knew that they claimed they didn't know or didn't see until it was too late. But here, I thought this was interesting. This was on Will Cain's show, too. A moment of Dr. Biden saying she was finally afraid when she thought about the mental health or fitness of her husband.
Debate performance. In a new CBS interview that will air Sunday morning, Jill Biden says at one point she thought the president was having a stroke.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes.
Or you've never seen him?
Well, that's
Never.
convenient.
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
But hold on, I'll stop it there, actually. It's really interesting for her to say it hasn't happened before, it hasn't happened after. Remember, this is a guy that was getting lost while on stage. President Biden would try to exit a stage after saying something into a microphone and get lost, be incapable of leaving that environment. And we watched that happen multiple times. He faced the wrong way during events where he's supposed to be paying attention, and world leaders from other countries are standing and paying attention to the right thing, and he's the only dude that's turned the wrong direction. Like, the mental unfitness of the former president was on display on a daily basis. We could see it. We could understand it. And Democrats claimed it wasn't real. And now Dr. Biden, as I'll continue to call her, is finally admitting that she had at least a small moment of doubt, of worry, after the debate, the atrocious debate that Biden and Trump did, that Trump just obliterated him on. And then apparently it disappeared and went away. And remember also that we heard about the amount of medical issues that Joe Biden is going through even now. And I felt like some of those stories were really reported in a way to try to make you feel bad for that person. But that is absolutely something that now seems to be readily admitted, that for a long time was denied. Let's play a couple clips of President Trump, and then we'll actually take our first break. He was talking about Iran, talking about what he thinks the stall is, the tactic that Iran is using, which is assuming that Trump will get out of this before the midterm election for political reasons. And the reason Iran thinks that, by the way, is all of our media. All the things that our media has been telling our enemy they think should happen. So the illusion of strength, the illusion of cards to play, is coming from the way that we've covered something, not the way that President Trump has actually behaved, and not what he's saying here. He's willing to wait as long as it takes for Iran to give us the deal that we actually need, and the blockade will be the thing necessary to get that done. Not any of the other deals that have come across that have been band-aided about. None of that will be good enough. Here's the president this morning.
And we have the strongest military anywhere in the world, as you know. You saw what we did with Venezuela. That worked out very quickly. And we're doing really equally as well with, but again, people don't want to write about it, with Iran. Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but no, we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't. Right now, I mean, you can speak to Steve Witkoff and Jared. They're doing a good job. But right now, I think it looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. They have, I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me. You know, we'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. People understand it. They know that. Very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Yes. I'm doing that for the world. I'm not doing it just for us.
Look, whether you hate the fact that we're in this conflict in the first place or not, and I know a bunch of listeners out there do, they hate the fact that this ever happened, this is the right take now. Accepting the reality that we're currently in, this is the right way to speak. This is the right behavior. This is the right strategy, especially if you can identify what you think is the thing that Iran is holding out for and tell them that's not going to matter. And it might not be something that politicians would like to hear. There are a ton of politicians that want this to be over because it benefits them and their likelihood of getting elected. It's 1,000% a selfish reason for them to want this conflict to end. You and I, a lot of people sitting at home or in your car listening to this, want things to end because of how terrible gas prices are. I filled my tank up today, and it was uniquely horrible. And actually, I on the Memorial Day weekend, decided to travel a little bit with the missus. And as we were driving, I said something about how terrible gas prices were. And obviously, I thought that was somewhat tied to the holiday. And Betty was like, you know what? Just fill up half the tank. Let's hope that a few days from now, prices go back down. They didn't. I had to pay a horrible price at the pump to fill up the entire car now. And we're going to keep dealing with that. And that is awful for you and I. But now that we're here, now that we've gotten close enough to force Iran to agree to the things we need them to agree to, we have to see it through. And I've said that before, and I'll just say it again before I take my first break, is to me, you accept the reality you're in. Whether you created that reality or not is irrelevant once you're there. You accept the logistics and the likelihood of the scenario that you're dealt with. And in this situation where we have already made the decisions we've made, the best possible thing to do now is secure an ending that makes sense to the American people. Because there's a lot of ways to screw that up right now. There's a lot of ways to do the wrong thing, I would say. And it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. I hope so. And I will fully judge the reality of that conflict in Iran with the United States when it's actually over. I won't be able to project as many things as many other people seem to be able to project because I don't actually know the inevitable conclusion. When I do, I'll tell you the truth. But all right, we'll take a break. A lot coming up. We only have an hour to do it. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the Voice of Texas. More next.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell, definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-909-9696. 800-909-9696.
If you have roof problems, you can sure see them when it rains. This is Deb Tejada from Tejas Roofing. If you see a leak, call me immediately. 281-251-0304. I'll send over the Tejas Roof Repair truck.
That truck has everything our experienced crew needs to fix your roof, right then and there.
The Tejas Roofing crew has been working together fixing leaky roofs for 15 years.
It's not a pretty truck, but it has everything we need to get the job done. I kind of like the way it looks.
Most roofing repairs cost less than $500. Why? Because we find the cause of the leak and repair that leak. We won't try to sell you services you don't need.
And we'll fix it right away because everything we need is in our truck.
Don't put off fixing a leaky roof. Call me at Tejas Roofing and I'll send over the truck. 281-251-0304. When you think of roofing repairs or a new roof, think Tejas Roofing, your Houston roofing company. 281-251-0304. That's Tejas Roofing, 281-251-0304.
A breast cancer diagnosis can turn your world upside down. But your Houston Methodist team assures you they'll use the latest cancer research and technologies, collaborating to treat and remove the tumor and reconstruct your breasts, restoring symmetry, sensation, and your sense of self. That's the difference between practicing medicine and leading it for you. Houston Methodist, leading medicine.
You know, where we go in life matters, and what we do matters, and we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes to your mortgage. You know, we live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source, and these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender, license number 263213.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the Voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. A bunch of stuff out there to talk about. I really, really liked something that I heard today. The president is planning on attending a Knicks game. I definitely think that it would be cool to see him at an event like that. I know there's a lot of people out there who say sports are dead to them. They don't pay attention to them anymore. They don't want to be a part of it. President Trump goes to things like the Super Bowl. He might go to an NBA Finals at Madison Square Garden, which would be Game 3. I'll play the audio of him actually answering this question. What I love about this, and you can still choose your own adventure. If you hate sports because of how woke it is, I won't tell you you're wrong. Sports is inevitably woke. The NBA is probably one of the worst offenders of that kind of stuff. They even have messages written on the paint of the arenas they play in on the court. So like they're uniquely bad at infusing politics into athletics. But I kind of love the idea that Trump goes, I don't care. I'll go ahead and attend anyway in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Some people might boo him. Some people might cheer him. It'll be what it is, like when he goes to college football or anything else. But I really like this. And I have been watching the NBA playoffs because I'm a Knicks fan. As somebody who was born and raised in New Jersey, I know the Rockets are out, so I haven't talked about it a lot on the radio. But here we go. Here's Trump answering a question about potentially attending a Madison Square Garden NBA Finals game.
So are you going to the Knicks game next week?
No, I was invited to I was going to go on Wednesday, but they closed it out very quickly. They're great. And Jim Dolan's a great guy. He's,
by the way, that's the last round he's talking
as
about.
you know, owns and in charge of Madison Square Garden. He's having a good year. Boy, what a team. They win all their games. They have some great players. I think I'll be going to one of the games. I was invited by numerous people and Jim. And I think I'll be going. It's great to see it.
President Trump, election fraud, President Trump.
The Knicks have really suffered for years.
They have. I like that everybody laughs at that because he's right. They have. The Knicks have not won an NBA championship since the early 70s. They haven't played in the NBA Finals since '99. They're a long-suffering franchise. Like a lot of other sports teams out there, you inevitably kind of like the lovable loser if you're someone who pays attention only sort of to sports. Like my wife has been watching the NBA playoff games with me, and she's cheering for the Knicks because I am. And I love the fact that she just seems to be happy when the players seem happy that they're winning. And then she also feels terrible for the team that's losing, and the Cavaliers got the crap kicked out of them multiple times. So Betty inevitably feels bad for the guys who seem sad, which I love about her. It's adorable that my wife feels that way. But if President Trump goes to a basketball, like an NBA championship game, I'm sure there will be people out there who say that it's terrible and he shouldn't support it and shouldn't be there because sports don't care about conservative people. And they don't. Like, that's not a lie. But I've never thought that the right response to that is to just completely pretend that the thing that you do like doesn't exist still if you like sports. Like, I don't want to make my life worse personally by avoiding something that I still enjoy, and I definitely enjoy watching. And I haven't watched the NBA, I'll admit this to, in a while. Like, I really let that sport go away. And I grew up in the 90s when Michael Jordan was the it player in the world of any athletic thing. And so even more so, like, I thought the NBA was something I'd be a fan of my entire life. Baseball is something that I have been a fan of my entire life and will never quit no matter what they say or do. But I just like it. I love everything about it, and I hope that it goes well. I'm sure that there will be coverage of people cheering him and booing him, like I said, and it's New York City, and it's Madison Square Garden, so even more so, some of that might be heightened. But I love the idea that you sort of stand in the face of anything that tells you shouldn't be there, and you go anyway. Because I think a lot of players that would be on that court wouldn't be happy that Trump was there, and he doesn't seem to give a crap about that at all, and I think that's awesome. Another thing out there I want to play, this is a Democratic senator saying Biden should have dropped out earlier of the presidential race that they're now finally doing the autopsy on. It's incredible to hear these people who claimed that Biden was the smartest man they'd ever met continue to crap on him now, again in May of 2026, when it seems like enough time has passed. But this is Chris Murphy on CNN finally saying the thing out loud that a lot of people said quite a bit ago. Here we go.
Well, I certainly remember that debate as we were all wondering what was happening in front of our eyes. I feel like we've litigated this. It was a mistake for the president to stay in that race as long as he did. We would have been better off as a party had he gotten out much sooner.
Why?
But yes.
By the way, I would ask why. Do they think that Kamala would have done better if she was given more time? Because I'd say no. I don't think that's true. Do they think someone else would have been a more viable candidate if given more time to shape themselves into someone that was actually running? If we actually had a primary season where we saw who Democratic voters even wanted to put forward, who knows? I don't think anyone would have had a shot at beating President Trump, and I think that's also Democrats' fault, by the way. I think the way they attacked him, the way they tried to send him into jail in multiple different court cases, they were doing everything they could, and then they literally tried to kill him. Multiple people did, in fact. So all of those things together, I think Trump would have beaten anyone on the Democratic side of the aisle. Did he have it uniquely easy going against Biden and then Harris? Sure. But I think he would have been more than capable. And even now, when you project to 2028, and I think Fox was talking about a Marco Rubio campaign, Rubio has said that he doesn't want to run. He's not the only one that said he's not going to run. I think J.D. Vance has also said right now he's focused on being the vice president, and it's too early before even the midterms to talk about who the 2028 candidate would be. But regardless of any of that, I just think it's interesting that even right now you can't really identify who you think a more valuable opponent for any of the Republicans that are likely to run would be. The Gavin Newsoms of the world, the J.B. Pritzkers, none of those people seem like they'd actually have a genuine shot at winning, at least right now. Gavin Newsom isn't even well-liked in California. I see that I got a question on one of our social media pages. You can watch the show at Radio Craig C on X to watch it directly from my own social media page at KSEV Radio. That would be on Rumble, on YouTube, and on X as well. So you can watch it anywhere there. But a listener asked me, would a compromise in Iran be for them to sell all of their nuclear material to the U.S. in exchange for U.S. fuel or something? Would we give them something in return and then take all of their nuclear material? I would say no, that's not a compromise to me, because one thing I don't want Iran to have is any amount of money. I don't want to give them truckloads of money. I don't want to unfreeze money. I don't want there to be a scenario at all where we benefit them financially to get this thing over with. I don't think we need to do that. I do think that we'll get what we want. Iran will dispose of or give us all of their nuclear material, all of their enriched uranium, and they'll do it because we told them to for the conflict to end. I don't think that it needs to be anything beyond that. Me personally, I think that we will find an avenue where the United States definitively wins in the negotiation portion of what is left of this conflict. But I appreciate the question, and I can see how it would benefit the U.S. to, say, sell U.S. fuel directly to Iran, something they have to buy. Really what we were doing, I've talked about this before and I'll say it again, the real benefit to removing the leader in Venezuela, to potentially doing some things in Cuba, to many of the things we've done, Iran definitely at the forefront of it, is disrupting a gas and oil trade industry that benefited all the people we didn't want it to benefit. The Chinas and Russias of the world that worked with Iran and then paid for terrorism around the globe. All of these things needed to be disrupted. It's not just preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. It's upending a system that was making it hard for the United States to prevent things like the invasion of Ukraine. All the sanctions that the U.S. placed on Russia didn't matter, and Russia had long found a way around them, deeply involving China and Iran and Venezuela and oil trade, all of those things. And so to disrupt that system is uniquely good for us. I just believe that it is, and I believe that we're so close to getting something that will be even better than what the listener suggests. All right, one last piece of audio I'll play. We'll take another break. We'll come back from our second break in this half hour of the show, and we'll have some fun, and then maybe do a little bit more serious stuff before we get out of here. But this is Tom Homan. He is talking about a crazy thing that's going on in New Jersey. So there's hunger strikes that are occurring inside, I think, ICE facilities, where people are saying they're not going to eat unless they're allowed out of the ICE facility. Homan says that doesn't work, that a hunger strike never succeeds in its goal, because if you place yourself in a medical situation where you're not eating at all and you're in danger of a more serious problem happening, we take you to a hospital and we force feed you, meaning a tube is put into your body and nutrients and food is sent into your body that way. That is a medical response to a medical situation you create. It sounds bad to some, I guess, if you say force feed, but it's not going to effectively do the thing they want. There's also a lot of protesting. There's been harm to police officers. All of this happening in Jersey outside of an ICE facility. And so Homan has been doing interviews in which he's been talking about the unique, terrible look of doing this on Memorial Day, of harming cops that are protecting an ICE facility on a day when we're supposed to be honoring the loss of life from veterans and people who protect our country. But even more than that, he's saying that none of this is going to go the way they want. They really need to stop doing it. And most importantly, and I think this is the thing that's getting missed in this conversation, these ICE facilities need to be fully run by the government, the federal government, because any bad things that potentially are happening in them, Homan is saying, are happening because we don't have the necessary oversight. But here's a little bit of that interview.
No, ethnic food's always provided. And I tour facilities all the time, and if you, like I say, if you're Muslim, you got a certain diet. You know, you can't eat certain meats, you can't eat certain foods, and those diets are accounted for when they're brought into the facility and when they're booked in. All this information's asked and proper diets are given. But we work. ICE bends over backwards to make sure these are really run great facilities, because look, we know we're under the microscope. We know Democrats are attacking ICE every day. And anybody thinks ICE is setting up a detention facility that doesn't meet our high standards, then we're setting us up for attacks, right? So we know we're going to have inspections every day. And in addition to congressional inspections, there's unannounced inspections by the Inspector General, unannounced inspections by Office of Professional Responsibility. They're always being inspected, unannounced inspections.
Yeah, so we're ready for them, is essentially what he's saying there. I'm not at all concerned with the likelihood of some of this being all over news media because they're attempting to find issues with us. I do also want to play the hunger strike don't work thing because I do think that's kind of interesting. This was Homan the other day in a different interview on Fox talking about this and my mother texted me this, Tom Homan does not play. That is true. He does not. And he's someone that was very much loved by the left. By the way, he's the person that they brought in Minnesota and in some other places to calm things down because he doesn't mess around, but he's also someone that has a unique track record of, well, deporting people, but doing it for both Obama and now for Trump. So he's someone that it's harder for the left to attack and say that he's somehow just a radical, crazy, MAGA guy. But here's a little bit of him actually saying the thing I mentioned, the hunger strikes don't work.
Look, I've done this since 1984. Hunger strikes never work. We're not going to change what we do because someone goes on a hunger strike. As a matter of fact, if it gets bad enough and the physicians feel like they're putting themselves in extreme danger, medical danger, then we'll force feed them. We'll get a court order and force feed them. Hunger strikes do not work. So they can put themselves in a position where they're not eating, but it's not going to cause them to be released. We are going to continue to arrest people. We'll continue to detain people. As far as complaining about ICE contract facilities, well, guess what? We're building our own warehouse facilities. We will have the federally owned detention facilities by the thousands of beds. So look for the future. And I've said from day one, we need to own more of these facilities when we operate them on federal land, and then that way we're not dealing with all this crap from the local politicians in the state.
Yeah, anybody who can get their fingers in it, essentially, is what he's saying. Anyone who can find a way to turn it into something that is news that mainstream media uses to push a narrative, to say that there's terrible, horrible people doing terrible, horrible things. He wants that control, and we should have that control of organizations, of institutions like that, because we just simply need it. All right, we're going to take one more break. After we come back from this break, we will do some stuff that's a little bit more fun. I call them palate cleansers. I basically steal the segment from Dana Lash when I fill in for her on her show. She does a quick 5. We do a quick 4-ish segment. So that coming up and more in just a bit. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas.
Match is back here in the Mac Z-Cliner. I'm recovering from surgery thanks in large part to this miracle chair, the Mac Z-Cliner. You can sit in it, you can recline in it, you can watch TV in it, you can eat in it, you can sleep in it. It goes to zero gravity position. The Mac Z-Cliner helped me recover. It also has heat and massage, a place to charge your cell phone. Come out to Gallery Furniture, buy a Mac Z-Cliner before your surgery. Gallery Furniture delivers tonight, or after your surgery, Gallery Furniture delivers tonight, and you'll sit and sleep great tonight.
Hi, I'm Tommy Mello with Garage Door Doctors. My mom recently moved into a new home with a builder-grade garage door. Noisy, flimsy, and not built to last, so we're fixing that. Mom, you're my hero. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs just to save our house.
And helped you build this company.
Now I'm giving her a beautiful new garage door that's built to last. The garage is 40% of your home's curb appeal. When it looks good and it works great.
Life is good. Thanks, Tommy.
From repairs to upgrades, call Garage Door Doctor today.
This is Kevin O'Hara with O'Hara & Company Real Estate. Our country's founding fathers drafted a document that is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. My friends at O'Hare & Company Real Estate, we believe we're at a precipice in time where we must take back our country. We must stand up for our freedoms or lose them forever. Please don't sit idle and let it slip away. Don't let anyone force you to do something you choose not to. As JFK said, if not us, who? If not now, when? If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, give O'Hare & Company Real Estate a call at 281-373-3393, 281-373-3393, or look us up on the web at o'harare.com. I'm Kevin O'Hara. God bless America, and God bless Texas.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. That is a group of sports fans in the UK, so British sports fans, that found a set of keys in the stadium and started cheering, and I'll play it again. Whose keys are these? Then eventually cheering when the guy got his keys that they had been recovered. I love this. As always. So 2 immediate thoughts out of that. 1, I would pay for this service. If I had sports fans follow me around and chant things about my day-to-day life, it would be amazing. Like he's starting his show or whatever they did. Anything like that would be amazing. Also, the other thing I love about this, my wife really enjoys a chant that happens at Yankee Stadium. It's a chant about the chicken bucket that's way too expensive and people actually buy in Yankee Stadium. When a group of fans, special fans in right field, see a chicken bucket, they just chant chicken bucket. And so my wife now at home here in Houston, I know the Yankees, not the most popular franchise around here, but nonetheless, she'll just randomly chant chicken bucket and smile. This is that kind of thing to me. So I love this for both reasons. I love the stupidity of it, and I love the idea that maybe they could do this as a rentable service and just follow people around and cheer about them, because it would put a lot of us in a better mood. It'd be the kind of thing that would make us, I think, a lot of us very happy. Another piece of audio that I have that I thought was a little bit sillier, this is a guy who works at a U-Haul. I think this is in New York. His name is Mitchell. He said that a trailer went missing 14 years ago. I don't even know if he was working at the place when it first went missing, and it recently was returned. And he calculated the amount of money that the people owe for a 14-year rental of a U-Haul trailer. This also went very viral all over the internet.
So when I opened it up, I'm like, well, that's not normal. And then I was looking for the license plate, and the license plate's gone too, so I knew something was up. For 14 years, multiply that by $30 a day, it'd be about $153,000. And then you have to add on the tax, of course,
Sure, of course.
That rounded up to about $165,000.
$165,000 for the 14-year rental of the U-Haul. What I thought of is somebody who borrowed it, because it doesn't sound like they rented it legitimately. Otherwise, you would have known who they were. But they borrowed it, and then they kept it in their backyard for 14 years. And probably the entire time, someone else in their life, maybe their missus, was like, you really got to return that U-Haul, that he probably wasn't even honest about stealing. He told her he rented it, he kept it in the backyard for a long time, and inevitably he returned it with the license plate. This is my assumption. I don't know all these facts. I just think this is possible. And that's how you get a plateless trailer returned to a U-Haul 14 years later. Somebody lied to their wife and then eventually decided to cover it up. And it took quite a while to do it. And I would love to hear that interview. But $150,000, $160,000, it sounds similar to whenever I hear somebody say that you rented a book from the library and then forgot to return it, and then they laugh about how many years it is until the book actually comes back and what the late fee would be. Just way, way worse. The U-Haul price is way, way higher. And actually, they're pretty lucky that it's just a trailer and not a vehicle that can have miles added onto the price, because I imagine it would have been far more expensive. But that is something, too. The last thing I thought about that story when I saw it, that someone could steal and return the U-Haul in a 14-year period and not be caught on a camera either time. That in neither scenario did anybody actually witness the thing. There's something impressive about that. I will put that out there. I'm not saying that crime is good. I'm not encouraging the criminals. But part of me is just wildly impressed that they got away with it the way they did. All right, some other things out there just for sillier topics. I thought this was an interesting list that people came up with on Reddit. They said that these are single-person luxuries, things that you can do if you're not in a relationship, if you don't have a roommate of any kind, that you can't do if you share your space with anybody else in your life. With me and my wife, a lot of these things would not be allowed. I like the idea of a lot of this. I'm not sure that all of them are things that uniquely fall into just the single guy only can do it. But my favorite one on the top of the list is you leave a piece of chocolate cake in your fridge and you know no one's going to eat it. You leave any kind of treat somewhere and you know no one's going to consume it until you come back home and you eat it. That is a unique thing. That is true about being a single person, that if you have somebody else in your life, they might eat the thing that you're saving for whatever rainy day you're saving it for because they don't care or they don't know. It's usually one or the other. But I do like that one. Knowing things are exactly where you left them was number 2 on this list, like your kitchen scissors. The way that a not single guy gets around this is we ask our wife all the time where stuff is. Every time I go to the kitchen, I need to be told where stuff is because it's her organized version of things. I don't know where it is. I have to be reminded every single time, and then I put it back in that place and immediately forget where it was. Never having to discuss plans with anyone. This was number 3 on the list. If you want to go out to eat, you decide where you go. There's no debating what you do or how you do it. This is both good and bad to me. I see the benefit of doing this, of being able to go out and do whatever you want. But then I also see the negative of never having anybody else that throws a different idea at you or anybody that you can debate these things with. Occasionally, you might want to do that anyway. Just call up somebody and ask them what they think of your plans just to go through the motions of getting another idea because sometimes the other person comes up with a better option. And then finally, one last one on this list that I thought was kind of funny. You never have to compromise on anything, not your home decor, not how you do chores when you do them, anything. It's all of your own discretion. Do it whenever you want. I thought that one was pretty funny, mostly because the missus has a certain set of rules for me in my house of how we do stuff when we do chores. And if she wasn't around, it would be way worse. These chores would take way longer to get done. Clothes would pile up until I was ready to do all my laundry at once. Dishes would be fully in the dishwasher before it turned on. I'm not saying that life is better in the scenario where you're not arguing with someone and doing things on your own, but I am saying that sometimes these things might build to the place where they become obvious that you need to get them done. And I think that that's a single person luxury, but also potentially a curse. I think there's probably a positive and a negative out of that one. And then one last silly story before we get back to something serious and then inevitably get out of here. The best outdoor toys for kids was a list that I think BuzzFeed created. And I thought this was pretty interesting because it made me hopeful to think that there are kids out there who want to go play outdoors and not be on some sort of technology and equipment that way. Like they actually want to go do stuff in the real world. Water balloons was number 1 on the list. Stomp rockets, the little thing that you step on and shoots a rocket up into the air, was number 2. Number 3 was walkie-talkies, which I think a lot of kids would just see that like a cell phone. I don't know if they'd be as amused by that as I was when I was little. And then finally, badminton or croquet sets were number 4 on the list for kids. I don't know. That doesn't sound like the kind of thing that I remember playing with a lot when I was a kid, especially if Nerf is a little bit further down that list. But hey, at least it's something. And they're saying in today's society, today's world, a lot more kids want to do that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. I think that there's a tremendous benefit to the idea that a lot more people growing up are doing it away from technology and not with technology constantly in their hand. My wife and I saw a little kid the other day, like really little, like, I don't know, 3 years old, with her own little iPad, sitting at a restaurant, watching something on the iPad while the parents were eating. And I'm not saying that it's the kind of thing that I wouldn't occasionally do if I was in a situation and had a little kid and maybe they're hard to entertain. So I don't know if this is a one-off or something you do all the time, but it also seems awful to see it, to witness someone who's letting their kid not be involved in, say, social settings almost ever by taking the iPad anywhere you go. That can't be a good thing that you're teaching a kid as young as 3 years old that they're going to live the rest of their life doing, just entertaining themselves and not necessarily ever being in the moment in real places. So I thought that one was probably also not good, even though it was a whole lot of places as far as the discussion about the toys that kids want as kids, and then the reality of what I think kids actually do most of the time to entertain themselves. All right, before we get out of here, I do want to cover a couple more serious topics. I saw some news that broke a little bit earlier during the show. I think it broke like 20 minutes ago. This is about E. Jean Carroll. So I do want to play this and a Department of Justice investigation that might go on for some criminal charges. I think, and I'll just say this before I hit play on the audio, that many, many supporters of the president, many supporters of conservative politicians want to see people who do bad things held accountable to the bad things they did. It doesn't matter who they are. If people can be found guilty in actual court proceedings and actual courtrooms, I'm not just making up charges and throwing people in jail for, politically motivated reasons. I'm going through the process of investigating someone and inevitably finding out there's some wrongdoing there. But if that happens, I think that placates a lot of the desire, a lot of the frustration people have with feeling like this hasn't been happening enough, that enough people haven't been caught, that the swamp isn't getting drained, et cetera. And so I wonder if this is an avenue to get that done. But CNN was one of the places that broke the story talking about E. Jean Carroll, who you may not remember is someone who accused President Trump of some pretty horrible stuff. Here we go.
Exclusive and breaking news right now. The Justice Department, CNN is learning, has launched a new criminal investigation into one of Trump's enemies, E. Jean Carroll. Now, E. Jean Carroll was the former magazine columnist who accused President Donald Trump of sexual assault. Ended up being that he was liable for sexual abuse. The source is telling CNN that the investigation now is focused on whether Carroll committed perjury during her 2 civil lawsuits against the president. Paula Reed is breaking the story, and she's out front. And Paula, what else are you learning about this? I mean, there was obviously a verdict here.
Yeah, Paula, what are you learning?
And here, Aaron, this is the latest move by the Justice Department to take action against one of President Trump's long-standing foes. Our sources tell us that this investigation is focused on a 2022 deposition that Carroll gave, where she said that she had not received any outside funding. Now, her lawyers later told the judge that she had, in fact, received funding for legal fees and expenses from billionaire Reid Hoffman. The judge overseeing this case ultimately said there were no issues with her credibility and blocked Trump lawyers from asking about this at trial. Now, Carroll currently has multiple legal battles with Trump currently pending.
Here, I'll pause it right there. Now, the narrative for this story is easily going to be that a victim of President Trump, who did a horrible thing because she accused him of raping her, is now going to be victimized all over again because the Justice Department is investigating a crime that she might have actually committed. Because if she did, and she did say this under oath, that she got no outside funding, and now outside funding has obviously been proven to exist, and even lawyers admitted it back then, and then court systems blocked her getting in trouble for that. None of those things are actually tied to what happened in a courtroom between Trump and E. Jean Carroll. This is a unique thing she did that is illegal and you can't do, and you deserve to be held accountable for it. It's just the narrative is so powerfully, it's an enemy of Trump, so they're going after her and throwing the book at her for something she did that's actually wrong. Like, that's the part that's crazy to me. That's the part that I can never fully comprehend when these types of stories happen, when this type of thing becomes something that a lot of people want to debate the logistics of or the legitimacy of, is inevitably people don't necessarily deny that all the facts you said out loud are accurate. That's not a portion. It sounds like her lawyers wouldn't even deny that. Just the scenario that we're in the moment, and the thing that they'll use as a demonstration that Trump is once again a horrible, terrible person, is very simple. It's that E. Jean Carroll, who didn't actually convince a jury that she was raped. That is something that they found Trump innocent of. I think there was some other charge that they found Trump to be guilty of in a civil suit of some kind, even though people miscategorize the results of the actual court case itself. So even that will probably be misrepresented. George Stephanopoulos, one of the people who wound up costing CBS a bunch of money in things he said that was uniquely inaccurate as far as that goes. But and I saw the breaking story right as we were taking a break and right before we did some of the sillier stuff. So I figured I'd still do it before the end of the show, because I can't get over the idea that most media has defined the villain and the hero, or the good guy and the bad guy, the victim, whatever you want to call people, in almost all of these stories without hearing any of the actual facts about them, without caring about the legitimacy of any of these cases, the claims that will be made, or the court proceeding that eventually has to occur to prove who's right and wrong, to prove who's telling the truth. And they don't care about the most important things, which seems to be uniquely terrible for our society. That seems to be uniquely bad for all of us, because they probably should care about, obviously, I say that quiet part out loud, that news media should be interested in the legitimacy of something long before they tell me what's right and wrong about any of these stories. But it's probably something that you're almost not going to hear about at all outside of people telling you that it's uniquely terrible that it's happening in the first place. Meaning the investigation and any of the likelihood of wrongdoing being found. Like the fact that that is lawfully occurring will be shaped as something awful, and then people will move on from the story entirely. And it frustrates me a lot that so very, very often you see that as the end result. Honestly, there's a way to I think blend this into another topic right before I get out of here. All the discussion of the amount of fraud that J.D. Vance and President Trump and all these other people are saying they found, the billions and billions of dollars that are being saved, that taxpayers will not continue to be on the hook for because of the horrible reality of the ridiculousness of the ease of some fraud and the people like Biden who allowed it to just go on and on and on. And yet this is almost never a story. Do you see coverage of this in mainstream media outlets ever? The answer, of course, is no, because it doesn't further the correct narrative. It doesn't benefit them in the way that it should. So the same will be true about stories like this. They'll find the avenues to go a certain road and then avenues to ignore everything else. It actually reminds me a lot of something that Chris Rock, I was trying to think of who it was. Chris Rock would say all the time. He would say that Republicans lie, because certainly Chris Rock is no conservative himself. And then he would say Democrats leave out important pieces of the truth, which is also known as lying, because they mislead and trick people on their side of the aisle to do whatever it is they want. This is something that is readily admitted by people of the political left. And so it's just interesting to see how awesome and how likely and how consistent these things are on display for us, and how easy it is for us to detect them. All right, that's it. That's the whole show. Thrilled to be with you, as always, on a Wednesday. Uniquely happy, I'll say this before I get out of here, at the results of the primary race that I wasn't actually able to vote in. I'm a day voter. I only want to vote on election day for any sort of race, and I wound up working a literal 12-hour day yesterday, so I couldn't do it. I did cover it a little bit right up till I got off the air, and about 15 minutes after the show was over and I was driving home, the race was already called, because Paxton just absolutely crushed Cornyn. I'm excited about that reality for Texas and what I think it means for conservatives, conservative beliefs, and the likelihood that we want the Republican establishment to go away as much as we want the Democratic establishment and the swamp to go away, and that Trump is still at the forefront of that. Anyone who said that the MAGA movement was dead was definitively proven wrong last night by the state of Texas, and I am, as I said, uniquely happy about that, and very much looking forward to another crushing defeat of Democrats by Ken Paxton in the Senate race. That's it. That's the show. See you guys tomorrow. Craig Collins.
You're listening to the Voice of Texas, AM